So today I thought I would come here and talk about each Star Wars and rank them from worst to best. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube that have done this. I think I've seen multiple. It's been a long time since I've watched anything Star Wars related, especially a Star Wars ranking, because I'm just so mentally checked out of everything Star Wars related. But I figured I'll do some of these franchise rankings, and I'll start with the franchise that I probably watched the most as a kid. I say those first three Star Wars, especially the original trilogy. I've watched them so many times that word for word I know what's coming. So I want to talk about all 11 theatrically released Star Wars movies and rank them. So I guess we'll start with number 11. And number 11 is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And this is the movie where I walked out of the theater and I, for the first time in my life, said I didn't like that. Or maybe I didn't like that, but I was just shocked at what I had seen. I hated everything they did with Luke. I hated absolutely everything with Finn and Rose and Canto Bight and all of that. That was so atrociously bad. Even in that moment, I knew it was bad. But just nothing made sense. It was 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I felt like it was an empty movie with nothing to be said. It had this theme about destroy the past and build this whole new thing, and it felt like an end of a trilogy. So Rise of Skywalker was left with nothing, really. But this movie, like, holy god, dude, it ruined Star Wars. I mean, Force Awakens, say what you want about it, it didn't destroy what came before it. It kind of celebrated it. This movie fucking destroyed it. And I'm all for changing things up and going in different directions, but this movie does it just for the sake of it, and that's kind of Rian Johnson's thing. Subverting expectations. All of his movies are about trying to surprise his audience rather than just giving them a good movie. It's terrible. You know, I've met maybe 2 people in my life that like this movie, and they're fucking retarded, and I'm sorry. Sorry if you're offended if I said retarded. Oh, forgot we live in a woke world where Disney thinks that we all want to watch Rey, a 103-pound woman, not get a single scratch in any of these movies. Let's move on to number 10, which is, it would be the worst in any other franchise, but Last Jedi is so bad that this movie is just slightly better, only because of how bad Last Jedi is. This movie's fucking awful too. I'm not gonna say there's any positives. It's not better in any way. It's just one had to come below the other. They're both fucking terrible. They would both be dead last in any franchise ranking. Fucking Rise of Skywalker is a joke. I walked out of the theater feeling like I was robbed. I felt like, what a waste of time. Like, we were so excited for this trilogy, and this is how you finish things off. You give us senile Lando flying around. You're giving us force powers that we have never seen. Again, like, I'm all for adding things, but we have 8 movies previous to this that are canon. George Lucas had Star Wars under his name for 40 some odd years, and now you're just going to add these things that weren't in the movies originally. Like, Rey can heal people out of nowhere, and people are like, oh, that's in the books. It was not in the movies. So you're going to add things that weren't in the previous 8 movies for the sake of your plot device. Oh, she saved Kylo Ren in the middle of their useless, pointless fight after fucking Carrie Fisher dies, because everyone has to die in these movies. Every one of these legacy characters we love all have to die. But, you know, that's fine, because we have these new characters who are great, right? No. And they try to have this redemption arc with Kylo Ren where they try and make him the Anakin of the trilogy, and it's just, nobody cared by that point. And people in the theater were booing when I was there, and that whole Rey, I'm Rey Skywalker. Like, really? 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 Whoever wrote that, fuck you. Seriously, Chris Terrio, you fucking Batman v Superman clown, you wrote this? Fuck off. You can see how fucking bad these movies are in my mind. They ruin my mood just talking about them. Number 9 is Solo, a Star Wars story. Again, this movie and any other franchise ranking would be dead last, but there's so many bad movies Disney's made that they're just one after another after another. The only thing that slightly makes this just like a percentage better is the fact that we get some Chewbacca and Han Solo when they were young, and that's like the only shed of like anything that's fun in this movie. Everything is just typical Disney women power. You've got like a 12-year-old girl leading this crusade. It's fucking dumb. Like, it is so dumb, and I've seen people try and make positives out of this, and Solo's the best Disney Star Wars, and it's underrated, and there's a reason it made $400 million and made no money. It's bad. People knew it. The word of mouth was so bad with the movie in the first few days that nobody felt like, I'm going to spend $12 and go watch a Solo Star Wars movie where he gets his last name by some guy at, like, a counter. Oh, you're by yourself? Solo. Really? Again, like, really? Who writes these fucking movies, man? Are they AI generated by a chimp? You can have 5-year-old kids out there with more creative ideas that are Star Wars fans. Like, it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. This movie was $200 whatever million. And what's this? The guy that plays Han Solo. I never remember his name. Alden Ehrenreich. So boring. People are like, oh, he's not bad as a young Han. So bland. Like, he's got no characterization to his character whatsoever. He's just plain face. Like, when I see people running around as him in Battlefront 2 in that skin, I just go, why? Like, just why? And with Donald Glover as Lando is just like a drunk guy at a club doing an impersonation on Halloween. Hey, Lando! And having pansexual sex with a robot. So fucking bad. Like, forget that this movie exists if you ever want to watch actual movies. You're gonna have to wipe this slate clean after watching these Disney movies. Number 8 is, it's number 8, right? Yeah, 8 is Rogue One. I hate this movie. I really hate Rogue One with a passion, and I don't understand why people like this. It's the same shit that Disney keeps pumping out, and every single studio keeps pumping out. 103-pound woman that would never, ever, ever leave a scratch on a single human being is this tough, big badass, and she's gonna lead a whole group to save the Death Star plans from the Empire. Like, it's just tiresome, man. Like, I love a female character that's strong, but does every fucking movie have to have a little tiny female that straight up wouldn't be, it wouldn't happen, I'm sorry. One guy would just go and push her out of the way, she'd break her arm, falling into the wall, that'd be that. Jyn Erso would be literally just thrown around like a toy, she's fucking like 100 pounds, and I'm supposed to believe that she's this like, I rebel, I'm a rebel. It's just, I'm sorry, man. Disney's pathetic. This movie's a joke. Their reshoots where they had to bring Darth Vader in to do this like fan service scene in the hallway, it's a joke. Like, I remember sitting there in the theaters and I liked it then when I was 14 or 15, and the more I watch it, it's like, this is just them blowing their cum all over the screen to try and make people forgive this dog shit pile of a movie that decanonized the Force Unleashed, which is a way better story for how they got the Death Star plans, and a way better origin for the Resistance, or the Rebels. And instead we get this shitty ragtag team of nobody you give a shit about that all die by the end of the movie, with a female lead that is the most bland background extra in any other movie. Felicity Jones is so bad, and what's his face, Cassian Andor guy is so unlikable. He gets his own show somehow, and then you got more people defending that online. It's the most adult thing Star Wars has ever seen. Like, have you never watched television or anything? Have you never watched a movie in your life if you're defending Andor? Seriously, man. Like, if you're watching this and you like the Disney Star Wars movies, just leave. Please. You're doing the world a favor if you just get off YouTube, delete your account, and go outside and just let the rain take you away. Because, like, seriously, man, what is your purpose if you're defending this garbage bullshit fucking Disney bullshit franchise? You can tell I'm upset, and I'm glad I'm ranting. Everybody gets to see the contrast of my anger in the first half of this video and my joy when I start talking about the movies I like in this franchise. And now, so we're on to number 7, which is the Force Awakens? It's Force Awakens. See, these movies are so bad I can't even remember what they're called. I get that and Force Unleashed mixed up. God, I'm worked up. I'll calm down. The Force Awakens has some things I like, I'll be honest. Out of all the Disney movies, this has the most things that I admire. I wouldn't even use that word because it's just literally A New Hope. Everybody knows that. That's been said 1,000 times by now. It's A New Hope copied and pasted with a female lead and a black co-lead, because 2020 or 2015, whenever it came out, they were trying to get the diversity in there. And I don't have a problem with diversity, but like, you're hitting people over the head with this trilogy. You've got like Asians and blacks and female leads, and it's like, that was never Star Wars. Like, that, pick another franchise, make your own franchise to do this shit. And J.J. Abrams has never made a good movie in his life. You know, like, Mission Impossible 3 might be the closest thing. What was that shit movie he made? The Alien movie, I didn't even remember what it was called. It was so bad. It's basically Stranger Things before Stranger Things, but it's just an E.T. ripoff. Can barely sit through that movie. We used to watch it in high school film class all the time, and I'd fall asleep because of how bad it was. J.J. Abrams, Lens Flare Boy, this movie's just, it's a misfire in a lot of ways. But there's that few scenes, where the Falcon's flying around. I just like to forget that Rey's flying. She's never flown in her life, but she's somehow doing better than Han Solo ever did. But I like to pretend that that's Solo in the cockpit in that scene when they're shooting at the TIE fighters. That's like the one good scene to me in that movie. And I like what they did with Kylo Ren a little bit, where he's this kind of like pussy. He's getting angry and slashing stuff. He's not Darth Vader. That was what I was really interested in seeing. Like, oh, this guy's the opposite. He's like a pussy, and he gets angry every time he loses, and he has hissy fits, and they didn't go anywhere with that really at all. Like, they made him this hateable brat, and it's a shame, man. Any positive this movie had, the next one wiped out, and Rise of Skywalker put the nail in the coffin, so... I'll move on because I have nothing left to say about Disney Star Wars. I'm done with that. Number 6 is Attack of the Clones. This was always my least favorite as a kid. It's always been the one that before Disney made movies, I was always adamant this was my least favorite. And easily the worst one, especially considering Phantom Menace came before this. You'd think they'd pull out all the stops to make a better movie, and they didn't. So, I can't really remember because I was only 2 or 3. I vaguely remember watching this on VHS, but I remember my uncle really just losing hope because he was a big Star Wars fan, and Phantom Menace sucked the life out of Star Wars fans that were above 15. Like people below that could probably find the liking out of it with the pod racing, but if you're an adult and you watch that, you're just praying Attack of the Clones is going to be this fun war movie that takes a dark turn for Star Wars, and it did not do that. And it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think, maybe 2 hours and 15. It's long. Like, it's not a short movie. It's a long, sloggy, awful. Like, the dialogue's awful. Like, it's awful. It really is awful, and it's delivered terribly too. Like, yeah, Ewan McGregor's a great actor. Like, I love him in Trainspotting and The Island and a lot of movies, but. Man, in this movie, he is wooden as wooden can be, and the only actor that comes across semi-convincing is Christopher Lee. Like, he is, in that scene where he's monologuing to Obi-Wan, where he's hovering, and he's basically telling him, like, yeah, it's Palpatine's behind everything. Like, I'm gonna tell you everything, and you still won't listen. That's the one really good scene of acting in the entire movie. Other than that, it's a lot of CGI backgrounds, pointless characters, Jango Fett and Boba Fett, like, hi, we're here. Look, we're here to sell toys. And the lightsaber duel in that movie might be the most pathetic thing Star Wars has ever done. That scene where they're just waving their lightsabers around in the dark. It's like Christopher Lee was drunk and just going like this, and Anakin, and it's bad. And Yoda's fight scene is just laughable. My friends were laughing at that not that long ago. We're like, wow, it's not aged well. Let's just say that much. So that's number 6. Number 5 is Phantom Menace. So the problem with Star Wars is there's really only 4 good movies. Even that's loose. There's 4 movies that you could put in that tier of entertaining. We'll say that. It's not that Phantom Menace isn't entertaining, but there's a lot of shit that kids just will not care about. I was one of the very few that did care about the entire movie, and I'd watch it all the time. But it still lands at 5. It's not a good movie. I'm very aware of that as an adult, especially. But there's still some scenes in here. The pod race is a lot of fun. It really is. You still feel the tension of that scene. I love all the underwater stuff for some reason. I don't ask me why. And I really love the whole end duel with Darth Maul. So those 3 things in the movie interest me. But the rest of it, I like the politics is kind of an overblown thing. They don't really do that much talking about anything. There's a couple scenes in some rooms, but besides that, it's just a slow movie. It really is. Like, things just don't move at a breakneck pace. There's not, like, the next few, or Revenge of the Sith in particular. That's like, next scene, boom, 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 boom. But with this, it takes its time. And Obi-Wan's a useless character, and I can never get over how annoying that is watching this. I don't know why he doesn't go to Tatooine with them. Leave Jar Jar behind. And then you need the comedic relief, leave him behind. We need an Obi-Wan origin a little bit here. Like, if you're going to bring him into this, don't just leave him there as a side character. He's just, hi, I'm your guy on the ship with Panaka, or whatever his name is, and we're just chilling on the ship, and we're waiting for Qui-Gon to come back. And even when Qui-Gon's fighting Darth Maul, he just stands on the ship like, Master, you coming? He doesn't do anything. And I'm not going to go into the Jake Lloyd thing. We know he wasn't a very good actor, and that there was better actors in the audition, but it is what it is. I'm not going to blame the kid for everything there. He's a child. If you're an adult and you're a bad actor, it's a little worse. But, you know, I'm not going to beat the dead horse. There's a lot of problems with it, but, you know, even the end space battle's fun until he says this is pod racing. But, okay, we're done with that. I don't want to just keep harping on Phantom Menace flaws because it's been done. Number 4 is Revenge of the Sith. And if you asked me when I was 10 years old, this would have been number 1 because I cared so much about the lightsaber action and action period in my movies. But this movie's missing something for me, like especially as I'm older. It's too CGI. You know, like there was that phase of early 2000s where movies like this just relied so heavily on a thing that wasn't quite up to par. It wasn't quite where it was in time like War for the Planet of the Apes, where you can make a full CGI character in a full CGI setting and make it look real. We weren't there in 2005. It looks fine, and in 2005 I was in shock because of how good it looked at the time, a lot of it as a kid, but there's like some of those ship shots and a lot of the stuff when they're standing around on Coruscant just looks so fake, and I get it, it's like an escape, it's like Speed Racer, where it's like an anime type thing. It's maybe an aesthetic choice a little bit, but I mean, the originals look pretty damn real. So when you're doing these new movies and a lot of the stuff looks fake and it's supposed to be before the originals, I get that it's like a post-war in the originals and stuff, but I don't know. I've always just struggled with how clean everything looks. And then 30 years later, I'm supposed to believe everything just got dirty and messy, and again, I get it. Great Depression and stuff after the First World War, everything was a mess, but I don't know, I get the whole parallels to actual real war, but there's just a lot of things with this movie that miss for me, but a lot of the stuff's great, you know, like I love where Anakin's character goes. It just happens so quick. It's just one scene where he's like, you know what, I'm bad now. So that was kind of rushed, but again, they left it all to this last movie, unfortunately, for some reason. He had 3 movies to plan this out and strategically show more. There's only that scene in the second where he does the Tusken slaughter. There's really nothing else that indicates this kid's gonna kill a bunch of people, especially children, and become this big Sith Lord that we're all gonna be afraid of, that is like the scariest villain ever, basically. You don't get that sense with Anakin in this movie. You just get the sense that he's this like bratty teenager still that thinks that he knows better than his dad, basically. Obi-Wan's like his dad. These 2 movies with Hayden Christensen, 90% of it is just him bitching about Obi-Wan and how he doesn't know, right? I know better than Obi-Wan. And it gets tiresome. And I do love the whole ending on Mustafar. Yoda versus Palpatine is a good fight. It's kind of dumb a little bit. It's like they clash lightsabers for like 2 seconds, and most of it's throwing like objects at each other. The music's great in this movie. I didn't mention that with Phantom Menace either. Duel of the Fates, man. They use that again in here, and it just sounds so good. And, I do like how they bridge the trilogies, and unfortunately Disney had to weasel new stuff in between. So, I don't count any of it, but this is the end of the Star Wars franchise for me, so it's the 4th one. Number 3 for me is A New Hope, the original. And this was tough for me because it was like neck and neck between this and the one that I put at 2. And it would flip-flop time to time, periodically. I'm sure if you asked me in like 6 months, it could change. Maybe not. I don't know, because when I was a kid, this was probably the one I rewatched most. Because VHS at my grandma's house, and then, I don't know, I'd always eat pizza and watch this. Whenever I had time off from school, or if it was like a Friday or something and I'd come home from school, just make homemade pizza and I'd watch A New Hope downstairs. I can still taste that pizza right now. And watching A New Hope where Leia's getting shot in the back by lasers. I love this movie. You're not going to hear me say too many bad things about it except for the special edition. Especially the one from 97. I have that one on VHS, and from time to time I'm like, I'll put that one in. I want to feel a little bit nostalgic. And it looks so bad. Like, the CGI looks so bad in comparison to everything around it that it just blows my mind. A lot of the changes were just awful, like Palpatine screaming in Empire Strikes Back in that version, and the 97 versions of all of the movies are probably the worst. And that's the one I think I watched the most as a kid, unfortunately. I've seen the original copy multiple times. They even have a website called like Archive online that you can watch it for free, which I've done multiple times because it's nice to see the ships and stuff in their original form. But I would be lying if I said I didn't like the dogfight at the end more with the CGI enhancements. It really helps. I'm not like, you can't sit there and tell me you like the original more. Maybe you do as a preference, but it looks better now. The whole ending looks so good. They use the Force, Luke, and he shoots it right in. All that is like movie magic. That's all something that's gonna go down forever. People will always talk about the end scene. We'll always reference Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll always reference Tatooine. We'll always reference Jawas. Like, there's just so many things in this movie, and the best choice it made in the editing bay with him and his wife, Marcia Lucas, was making C-3PO and R2 our characters that we see things through for the first 20 minutes. Rewatching, it's just brilliant. It really is. You get to see this whole world through these characters that they're so foreign to us. Just seeing them alone is foreign. Now we get to see this foreign landscape with this skeleton of this, like, Loch Ness monster in the middle of the fucking desert, and they get picked up by a sand crawler. There's just so much happening. And when you're a kid, this is all so stimulating. It's just what you want to do in real life. You want to be Luke Skywalker, and you want to go off and you want to fight with the rebels, and you want to be Han Solo, and you want to get the girl, and you want to hang out with Chewbacca. I just love A New Hope. I really do. And you can hear the way I'm talking about it. It's like my child. But the first two, I think I love just a little bit more. And number 2 is Return of the Jedi. And I think I'm aware that this has more flaws fundamentally than A New Hope, but the highs are higher than the highs of A New Hope for me. And, obviously the lows are lower, but the Ewok stuff doesn't bug me as much as it bugs most adult Star Wars fans. I think mainly because I watched it so much as a kid, but, I get it. And there's a couple things in the movie, like the pacing gets kind of bad in the middle a little bit. But the first half, or the first 40 minutes, because it's like a separate movie in itself. You've got the 40 minutes at Jabba's barge and palace. It's like a separate little TV movie. And then you get the whole hour and 10 minutes after that, or hour and 20 minutes, where you're dealing with the after effects of Empire Strikes Back. And they're basically closing up all of the loose ends from that movie. So Yoda dies. And Luke's having to face his father, which was like his destiny, and there's a lot of things that this movie just... you think of this when you think of Star Wars, like that scene where Luke and Vader are fighting at the end, and Luke's angry, and you just see that angry look on his face, and he cuts Vader's arm off. That's the scene that I think of when Star Wars comes to my head. I think of that scene where Luke finally lashes out and fights back. It's just, again, movie magic. That whole movie is just ingrained in my brain from beginning to end. The whole original trilogy it's a perfect trilogy. It's got its flaws, but in the sense that it's perfect. It gives you everything you need as a viewer, especially if you're a kid growing up watching it. You're literally escaping to this alternate reality of fun, amazing music, amazing characters, blasters and lightsabers and aliens and all these things that every kid loves, and it's all in one movie. I think that's why I like this one so much. You got that whole variety in the first 40 minutes alone, and then you've got the last hour and 20 minutes, which is a standalone movie where they go to Endor and they fly around and they have the speeder bike chase, which is... I still love it. I know it looks rough. Glad they never CGI'd that, because it aged well enough that I like it with the matte lines around it. And Luke's lightsaber, the green, it's amazing. Only real big problem for me in this movie is Han Solo's kind of not relevant. He should have died in Empire Strikes Back, and every real Star Wars fan is aware of that, because he just kind of stands around, man. Like, he's just kind of like, hi, I'm going to blow this door up. It's my job in this movie. And after being in Indiana Jones, it just feels like a slap in the face for Harrison Ford and Blade Runner. So it's like, should have given him more. And I think you all know what number 1 is now. It's The Empire Strikes Back. And I've said in my last video, my favorite ranking of all movies is second. But of any movie, this is the second movie I love most, behind Back to the Future. And the thing I said was, this has been holding up Star Wars for 35, 40 years. 50 years almost now, because Star Wars is 47 years old. So it's getting there, man. And we're getting to the point now where we basically, Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope in particular, have held up a franchise for 50 years. And without those two movies, like, I love Return of the Jedi, but I don't think that's good enough to hold up the franchise. Empire Strikes Back gives you everything you want in a Star Wars. You've got Yoda, the Empire in full blast. You've got the Imperial March. You've got Vader at his best. Luke learning, and you get to see his training. You've got the Wampa scene. You've got Tauntauns. You've got Hoth. Like, Hoth alone makes me just want to go swim out in the snow. I hate snow, but Hoth is such a beautiful location. The whole opening scene, again, it's like Return of the Jedi a little bit. You got this opening scene. It's not quite as long, where you're on Hoth. It's probably 25-30 minutes, and it's like a separate movie in itself. And then the movie gets rolling, where the characters all get split up. Han, Leia, and the droids and Chewbacca all go off through the asteroid belt, and Luke goes towards Dagobah. And we really get to feel our character separation, and that's ultimately what ends up getting Luke in trouble, is he fears that his friends are going to fall into the trap that he falls into. It's good writing, it's really good writing. It's back when the Force made sense, and Yoda wasn't somehow blind to all these things, like in the prequels, that he didn't somehow know. Don't ask. The guy's supposed to be powerful with the Force, and he didn't notice the guy 3 feet away from him was a Sith Lord. But in this movie, he knows everything. He knew Luke was going to fall into this trap and fail, and so did Obi-Wan, but they let him, because you have to learn. They knew he would learn. And if he failed, then Leia was there to pick up the slack. She was the Elder Jedi, and, I just love this movie so fucking much, man. I really do. Do or do not. There is no try. There's so many things that come from this that you could have on a t-shirt, you could have on a poster, forever going to be referenced in pop culture. TV shows, movies, this is always going to be a reference point for everybody. And it's just known as the best Star Wars, and I almost feel guilty for putting it at number 1 for that reason, but it's the best. And it was always the elusive one for me as a kid, because it was the hardest one to find. When I had it on DVD as the first time as a kid, I remember holding it so closely. It's like, I finally have this. Get to watch the good ending where Luke and Vader fight and he loses his hand. I get to see all that, and it's just great. I truly love, and the John Williams score in this movie, my favorite John Williams score, possibly. I'll stop gushing over the original trilogy, but you see, I told you, it went from the highest of highs with my anger to the most extreme happiness at the end, where I'm talking about the movies I love. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be around to do more of these videos in the next little while and do other updates for other things, and hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.